It's a new Substack where she's charging people to give them legal advice. Even though she's not a lawyer, like, do you think that's a good thing? What do you think about that?
Tickled Pink, you are so wrong for that. Y'all are wrong. Y'all are so... Now, Gypsy probably is the most trolled person on the internet because she even had to say this.
Done like TikTok and whatnot about like what our lives are, and I think that it's all
that pisses you off.
no, let's just not.
Well, we can honestly say, Ken, that nobody's interested in your life. And people are only interested in Gypsy's life because of the more she talks, the more she lies. And they capture that on camera. But there you go. 3 times TMZ has stopped Gypsy Rose Blanchard. And do they talk to her about anything of substance? Absolutely not. They talk to her about the Menendez brothers, about Casey Anthony, other people who schmurdered. But on that note, Casey Anthony wants to let you know that she's not afraid of you. Nope. The public has tried to silence her for years. She chooses to live a private life. Yeah, you decided to live in a nunnery for the protection for many years and behind a defense attorney who you were lucky enough to get a job with. The word salads with the word semantics and the nitpicking and the microanalysis of every little thing doesn't change the fundamental truth in every language, in every realm, under every God, under every law, Casey, that you were responsible for keeping your daughter alive and you failed to do that. No matter what you want to say, no matter what you want to nitpick at, please read the totality of this post and you will see. I stated that it is not legal advice. You can't give legal advice because you are not an attorney. You cannot do that. She never made herself out to be an attorney, a private investigator. But what did she say? That she's a researcher? She's a researcher and she's backing the legal rights. What about the rights of your mom, the rights of your dad, the rights of your brother, the rights of victims? Victims like Kaylee Anthony, to which she only has to say, read and learn. I'm just going to throw all these links at you. I'm exactly where I need to be, doing exactly what needs to be done to protect the world from people like you. Best wishes. Yeah. I really hope that your parents never give you Kaylee's ashes, because you actually think that you are entitled enough to not only defame and slander and libel your mom and dad and brother, but that you are entitled enough to say, look, so I can do another documentary and say, see, look, I got my daughter's body. I'm not guilty. Yeah, you are. And even with the double jeopardy laws, your father's never faced any kind of criminal charges whatsoever. Let's talk about men's rights. Let's talk about women's rights. Let's talk about how you are presumed innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. Let's talk about that in relation to George Anthony, Cindy Anthony. Let's talk about that in relation to your brother, but let's talk about that in relation of your daughter, Kaylee Anthony. Let's really talk about that. She had the right to her life. She had the basic human right to her life. She had the basic human right to her privacy, her life, to thrive. And let's talk about the fact that your father and your mother and your brother have never been criminally or civilly prosecuted in any court anywhere. So all those false allegations that are levied and thrown at them are nothing more than defamation. Especially for people who did not choose to be public figures and are not public figures, who are literally private citizens, right? She's going to talk about everything, even with the Pulse nightclub. The very first time I went there was in 2005. That was my first exposure to a gay club. Really? Yeah, we know how much you like clubs, Casey. Yeah, we know. The only reason I even know how to remotely put on my eyeliner is because of my friend Ray. Going to places like that is one of the safest places for women, even someone who is straight. I don't think orientation or identity has anything to do with safety and non-safety, and the fact that you're trying to say that, Florida, like, just the amount of mass violence and mass GUN violence that has happened. I don't think anybody's safe at a concert, at a movie theater, at a nightclub. Doesn't matter about identity and orientation. It has to do about crazed psychopaths with weapons. That's what it has to do with. The mental health crisis of allowing people to just freely be out in the world off their medication. Yeah, because they have the basic human right. And then what do? They go and infringe on everybody else's basic human right to have their life. Okay, Casey. For everyone speaking, good, bad, and otherwise, heed your words and make sure you are saying something of substance. Here, the law in Florida about threats, libel, and slander. Oh, wait a minute. Nobody is threatening you. Nobody is threatening you. But they are going to stand up for the victim's rights. And the victim in this case is your daughter, Kaylee Anthony. You don't get to come with all this BS, right? Internet being hateful, slanderous, libelous, threatening, bullying. People are not doing that. They are voicing their opinions and they are standing up for justice for Kaylee. Victims' rights. Victims' rights. Those rights are more important than your right to free speech or to your right to sit there and say, I have the civil and constitutional right to the presumption of innocence. Actually, the Constitution does not state that. The Constitution does not say anywhere that you have the presumption of innocence, legally speaking. The presumption of innocence is the principle that a person accused of a crime is innocent until proven guilty. It is a fundamental requirement of a fair trial and a core principle of the U.S. justice system. It is not in the Constitution. It is not a constitutional and civil right. That is not how it works. And it doesn't actually state that, right? But everybody is presumed innocent. It is not a right. It is not a legal right. Yeah, everybody should be. But when the evidence in the court of law speaks volumes, even the jury themselves said that you're guilty. They just couldn't come back guilty on the premeditated, one and only charge of first degree premeditated, that they couldn't come back because they couldn't prove the premeditation part. If there was a secondary or third charge attached, you would have been found guilty of something else and you would be spending your life in prison. You can guarantee that because the jurors and even the judge himself have stated that fact. They have talked about that numerous times over the years. The prosecution overshot their case, right? The presumption of innocence is a constitutional safeguard that protects the innocent, not the guilty. It doesn't protect the guilty. It protects the innocent. And ensures that only the guilty are convicted. That's where you're wrong, sweetheart. The presumption of innocence is a fundamental part of due process, which is the principle that the government cannot deprive a person of their freedom or property without following the proper procedures. Justice for Kaylee. Her name is Kaylee. Caylee. It's Irish. It means brave. I chose her name. Of course, everything's all about you, right? It's got to be you. Your daughter, my rights. I'm going to advocate for myself and for my daughter. Yet you have done zero of that for Kaylee. Because if you did, the first thing you would do if you really truly loved your daughter is you would come forward and you would tell the truth. Even with double jeopardy and not being able to be charged again, you would just come forward and just tell the truth and stop with all the BS. And you would seriously get help for whatever crazy sociopathic narcissistic personality disorder that you likely have because you display all the signs and you have for decades. Okay. And then you would actually just do justice by your daughter. And you would appreciate her civil and constitutional rights. You would have appreciated her right to life. So who wants to start at the beginning? Anybody want to start at the beginning? You guys want to go through the trial? You want to go through what the judge and the jury have all said and all the interviews they've done over the years? You want to go through Dr. G's own testimony and her own interviews that she's done? Because Dr. G didn't get it wrong. No 2-year-old should be found deceased with duct tape over its mouth.